Our first speaker is Sameh Younis. So he is a senior cloud solutions architect at Microsoft. Sameh helps Microsoft security partners across Canada to advance their security practice, architectures, technical skills, and security operations. He has been with Microsoft Canada for 14 years and with over 25 years of IT consulting experience. And Sameh's topic is also very interesting: identify, classify, and remediate threats with the latest technology like AI and automation.
So I just want to jump right into the topic of security operations because I think that's really very important even before considering any of the tool set that we can talk about. But in general, SOC operates with 3 tiers of analysts, and all SOC tiers should have a desire to drive as much automation as possible throughout their operational processes. And if we lay across the different security functions, you can see how they are aligned to these tiers. Automation ensures that analysts spend less time on each incident, reducing the attacker's time to operate in the environment, which is a key here. Automation also ensures analysts aren't bogged down in manual admin tasks so they can react quickly to new detections. And most importantly, analysts have more time to engage in a proactive activity that both reduce organization risk and increase morale by keeping everyone focused on the mission. So the mission, if I talk about the mission should always be oriented towards limiting the time and access attackers have to an organization asset, which is really important, and be able to effectively mitigate those business risks. So let's examine the flow within these 3 tiers of SOC. Automation should be considered as your tier 0 if you look at the bottom here of this diagram. To start with, it is supported by artificial intelligence and machine learning. And then if we consider the path to resolve or detect and resolve problems, there are 2 distinct paths. One is a hot path addressing active or confirmed attack, and a cold path proactively hunting for hidden risk or hidden adversaries. Notice that tier 3 is advanced specialization that contributes to enrich the toolset with additional analytics and additional automation. And it implements automated investigation and remediation where it's applicable and needed. Let's further frame this conversation by discussing some of the challenges that SOC teams are facing today. The recent trend in the evolution of attacks has highlighted that these attacks cannot always be detected in a deterministic way. And if they could, it could be bypassed quite easily. Attackers are leveraging standard tools in their campaigns and standard behavior that are even harder to identify if it's malicious or not. Security operations team get far too many alerts and have trouble prioritizing them. In truth, they should be focused on the most impactful entities. Insider threats, let's not forget that. They are considered to be the biggest cybersecurity risk than even the external risk. We see 74% of cyber incidents happen from within the organization boundaries. As was the case with the SolarWinds attack, many of these signals was unnoticed as their activity was happening inside the corporate network. And many SecOps teams were too heavily focused on external threats while they don't have time or the tools to identify those insider risk to the environment. So in general, investigating the scope of a potential breach can be very complex, can be slow and it requires, in most cases, a manual process. Security operations have telemetry data from a ton of disparate systems and mainly rely on manually correlating related activities from these disparate data sources in order to make sense and reason of what's truly happened in their environment. A single user identity can present itself into different ways based on the tools that run the detection, whether this tool is in the cloud or on-premise, to correlate all of these different identities, which happen to be the same user, mostly requires a manual correlation activities to identify this. And that's one, just provide you with one of the challenges that's facing SecOps team. This endless barrage of disparate security data makes it difficult for defenders to effectively correlate events at the speed needed to contain a threat. In the end, many SecOps team get stuck in this endless loop of chasing things that don't exist, and more importantly, things that do not matter. Do not spend your time sorting gravel. It's not all an effective use of your SecOps or SOC time. Sorting gravel generally leads to two major concerns. The first, you might miss real detections while chasing false positives. Second, attackers are operating freely until they are evicted from the environment. In order to address these challenges, our SOC at Microsoft decided to transition to a platform backed on the principles of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and automation in order to distill the billions of events per month that our system generates and we distilled these into just few hundreds key investigations. In doing so, our SOC has enabled an over 90% true positives on alert feeds, which is a very high percentage, which has allowed our team to focus on critical metrics that matter most, such as mean time to acknowledge and mean time to remediate. These are key metrics that our SOC team have deployed, and we have seen significant enhancement to these metrics as we deploy our solution across. In fact, our internal SOC sustained over 100% growth in incident handled over a 3-year period with nearly flat staffing level. We didn't have to add any additional staff. While we don't know if we can expect this astounding trend to continue in the future, but it validates that we are on the right track and should share our learning. And that's what we're trying to do here. Traditional platforms and security operations teams have silos of data. As discussed earlier, these silos of data make it incredibly difficult to make sense of that data. Many tools have mapping challenges that pivot on different attributes like we have seen on the earlier slide. Believe it or not, we have seen some cases of SOCs during critical incident response scenario. They rely on event timestamps to try and correlate what's happening across these systems. And that's a very difficult and time consuming. This is not at all an effective or sustainable model. Remember, we said don't sort gravel. The recent wave of very sophisticated cyber attacks from nation states has hit home the importance of clearly understanding the relationship between these different domains. How an attack progress through the environment, we need to understand this and have the tools ready for it. We took our existing high quality detection and data and introduced signal sharing amongst our product. We extend this by unifying our entity definitions across all our products. So when a file hash appears as a malicious within a certain mailbox, I will be able to understand the correlation, and when that same file hash appears on an endpoint or appears on Teams or SharePoint or SaaS application. Once these entities are unified in our platform, we dispatch machine learning and artificial intelligence to provide semantics and meaning across these very large sets of data. This allows for clearly defined scope and context for complex attacks that span many different devices, identity, mailbox, or applications. We then layered on out-of-the-box automation capabilities to help coordinate response across these domains, with the potential of further security automation throughout custom security playbooks. So how we architected our security solution from the point of view of a SOC analyst, given all of this kind of engineering that we have. So let's take a look at this. From an analyst point of view, and as we discussed, there are two metrics that is so important for SecOps or a SOC team. Their responsiveness, which is measured as the mean time to acknowledge an attack or acknowledge an incident, and effectiveness, which is the mean time to remediate. In today's world, there are so many different areas and platforms to protect, whether it's the information system, different kind of files, different kind of databases, uh, modern and SaaS applications, different cloud, including Office 365, Google Docs, Box, and so forth. Endpoints, users now use different endpoints. So it's no longer the Office desktop. It's now different types of laptops, mobile devices that need to be protected. Identity and access management, whether using on-premise Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and LDAP, or other third-party products like Okta. Operation technology and IoT, platform as a service applications that you develop on cloud, as well as different infrastructure and hosting platform, and that's include Azure, AWS, and so forth, or maybe on-premise like VMware or Hyper-V and so forth. In addition to a multitude of other security and network appliances that's being used. And the current approach is that the current approach is to collect the logs of these systems into an existing classic SIEM solution, such as Splunk or ArcSight and so forth. So our approach to this, we introduce a deep insight that provides an actionable alerts using machine learning and user entity behavior analytics. And this is our Microsoft Defender technology. And with Microsoft Defender technology, we have two major vectors here or products. The Azure Defender, which focus on infrastructure, apps hosted on infrastructure, platform as a service, operation technology and IoT, and other areas. You see the dots here. We keep increasing the space. It's actually, we don't have much space on the slide to put all kind of the Azure Defender technologies. And we have the Microsoft 365 Defender. And the 365 Defender come packaged into the Microsoft 365 E5 suite or E3 with security add-on. And that's provide a Defender for identity, identity protection, Defender for endpoint, Defender for Office, and Microsoft Cloud App Security as our application security broker. So all of these are supported by automated investigation and response that's built right into the system. And that's very important, as well as it's being enriched by the Microsoft Threat Intelligence, which is the cloud base based on all the trillions of signals that our team identify, and we identify any common patterns, we identify risks, and we feed into the products on a daily basis. So with Microsoft Defender, these provide these deep integration and deep detection tools. And then we have our SIM tool. And our SIM tool is the SIM plus SOAR because it also allows for security orchestration, automation, and remediation. This is our cloud-based SIM solution. It's based on machine learning, artificial intelligence. It analyze user behaviors across the environment. So it have behavior analytics, it's used, it's very flexible in terms of the storage and be able to query the storage. In addition to integration capability with the different tools. So it provides integration capability, it provides detection for security and network appliances. So you see here the lines here and the kind of coverage, because we're looking at Azure Sentinel as a single pane of glass across all security areas. And you can have Azure Sentinel in addition to your classical SIM until maybe you feel comfortable and you see the value of Azure Sentinel. So that's something that can also, they can run in parallel, shouldn't be any problems. With all of that, you might still need some support, additional support. You need like more human support. So we have expert assistants available for your SOC team. The Microsoft Threat Expert is a subscription-based service that allowed your analyst to subscribe and have some security expert at Microsoft help with specific incident or specific problem or something that they need to understand further. Also, Microsoft Threat Experts feedback into the Sentinel, feedback any ongoing risk that we identify maybe globally or regionally. So we're able to feed that into the Azure Sentinel. Same expert assistant can be also provided by outsourcing to third party. We have lots of partners who assisting customers. They can manage the services or manage the threats on your system and help you with this area. So that's kind of an end-to-end view of how our security suite is aligned and how we leverage AI and artificial intelligence across, as well as automation across all of these systems. So let's dig deeper and look into a day in a life of security operations teams. So a common scenario of SecOps incident, for example, in which a C-suite executive receives a suspicious message and report it to the security team. You will find that SOC Tier 1 investigate the email. They have lots and lots of questions and things to address. Tier 1 team assesses the impact, and Tier 1 or Tier 2 takes or approve mitigation action. In many SOC ops teams, answering all of these questions outlined here, and I will not go through them, but I give you an example of the kind of challenges that these teams need to have. They need to collect all of these data, and they need to correlate all of these data. What we offer out of the box in our product is a holistic approach to security. We have integrated tools, so there is no need to dig into different tools. It's backed on the principles of AI and automation, which can easily surface all the required data for your SecOps team to answer these questions. Automated investigation integrated right into our Defender for Office and Defender for Endpoint, as an example, dynamically surface all key entities involved in these complex attacks. In fact, since we are dealing with unified entities in this case, which the example I gave earlier, a malicious file hash, we are able to provide a coordinated response across email, endpoint, And this is just an example. Uh, just look at the quantity and quality of the data that our automated anti-enrichment was able to surface for us on a page. And this is just a screenshot. And you can see, and this screenshot also includes many tabs and many active links and so forth. So no longer do I have to hunt across disparate systems. No longer I need to correlate events manually. I can clearly see all the enrich and related entities with all the data I need to see in order to make a determination about this threat. Whether it's a real threat, whether it's like the details about the threat, the sender detail, the mail authentication related to messages, a timeline, the impacted entities, related endpoint, or even a list of automated remediation actions that are coming out of the box that I can just run right from this page. This out-of-box intelligence and automation is a great starting point, but let's see how we can augment our security operation further by integrating additional intelligence and additional automations. Um, the the threat intelligence that we generate within Azure Sentinel and our Defender product, we able also to enable you to extend this intelligence with our SIEM and allows you to import additional threat indicators your organization might be using, which can enhance your security analyst ability to detect and prioritize known threats. So how we can keep this threat intelligence updated? We do that through AI, of course. Every day, our global team of security experts utilize cutting-edge AI and machine learning to reason over trillions of signals to protect our customers. These signals are distilled into actionable intelligence and fed across our various products and services, ultimately culminating in new detection algorithms, which are continuously validated and tuned. We combine this massive amount of intelligence with advanced machine learning algorithms to better understand user entity behavior. We leverage user entity behavior to build standard profiles and behaviors unique to the organization. That's a key. The engines might take some time, like it's just run, and it might take a few hours or days or even days to collect all the required data and do the analysis. The more time it gets, the more intelligence it builds and the more behavior it understands from what's going on in the organization. As we discussed earlier, malicious behavior from compromised user accounts coming from inside your organization represent a far greater threat than external ones. Organizations such as ourselves, who model security as thought the attacker is already observing them, can have more confidence that mitigations are already in place, because our threat models always assume attacker intrusions. This is where the user entity behavior analytic comes in handy. As an example, the capability within Sentinel eliminate the drudgery from your analyst workload and the uncertainty from their efforts to deliver high fidelity, actionable intelligence so they can focus on investigation and remediation. As Sentinel collects logs and alerts from all its connected data sources, it analyzes them and build a baseline behavior profiles for your entire organization and your entire entities. And that includes user, host, IP addresses, applications, etc. Using a variety of techniques and machine learning capability, Sentinel can identify anomalous activity and help you determine if an asset has been compromised. Not only that, but it can also figure out the relative sensitivity of the asset, identify peer groups of assets, and evaluate the potential impact of any given compromised asset. This is very powerful. All of these signals across AI, machine learning, threat intel, and UBA is in our fusion detections. By using fusion technology based on machine learning, Azure Sentinel can automatically detect multi-stage attacks by identifying combinations of anomalous behaviors and suspicious activities that are observed at various stages of the kill chain. On the basis of these discoveries, Sentinel generate incidents that would otherwise be difficult to catch. These incidents comprise two or more alerts or activity. By design, these incidents are low volume, high fidelity, and high severity. Exactly what we need to achieve a greater than 90% true positive rate within our SOC. These are just some of the supported scenario within the Azure Fusion. I will leave this up to your reading later on. These are additional ones. And finally, before I end, we need to touch on playbooks. So we have shown you how a massive amount of machine learning and AI goes into distilling these billions of events into clearly defined list of high fidelity actionable incidents. Security playbooks extend the capability of automating the response to even those low volume, high fidelity incidents. Security playbooks are based on Azure Logic apps and have a ton of readily available connectors to automate actions across a variety of application and services. The playbooks, when we think about designing a security playbook, the playbooks need to have a well-defined procedures based on known issues. Good candidates for playbook automation are those repeatable actions in response to high fidelity events. So, I want to stop here, and I'm sure you have lots of questions, and I'll be open to address all your questions during the panel time. I will leave you also with some resources here. Thank you.